And welcome to episode 11. How can I become a person with a greater capacity?
Get a dog.
That'll squeeze everything you've got out of you.
What we put into that time, I think, really determines our capacity. What test do I need to embrace over time that's going to help me to increase my capacity?
Looking for those opportunities to grow doesn't always look like fun though. What do I need to get rid of, cut down in order to allow space to grow? What could I have done better? What could I do better next time? How can I grow? How can I learn? I hate it.
Why?
Because it's painful. Hi everybody and welcome to episode 11 of The Winning Life TV. My name is Leanne Morgan.
And my name is Gareth Morgan.
And we are really happy that you've joined us today, whether it's good morning, good afternoon or good evening, whatever time you're watching this or tuning into this, we are happy that you have chosen to listen to this because we love having conversations with people.
We love it.
Especially with each other.
Oh, there's never a time that I don't love a great conversation with you.
I've started to look forward to these little chats that we have before our podcast.
It's our own protected time.
That we share with everybody.
We shut the world out and then speak to the world.
Absolutely. So are you doing okay today?
I am doing fine. I'm doing good. I am surviving a new era with an addition in our house.
Well, some of you, if you've listened to previous episodes, I can't remember when it was, but a few ago, we talked about dogs, didn't we?
We did. I think it was a strategic seed that was planted in that conversation.
Yes, because I said, do you remember how we all, as in me and the kids, wanted a dog? And you were digging your heels in saying no. And then in the space of 4 days, something happened. I'm not really sure what happened, but yeah.
I know what happened. It was manipulation.
Whoa.
Emotional manipulation of a kind that no man could sustain for longer than a few days. Well, no longer than this man could sustain it anyway.
No, well, our son, who's 15, has been desperate for a dog for a very long time, hasn't he?
That's an understatement.
And yeah, and I've never been an animal person, like ever. I mean, I love them, but never wanted a dog in the house. But yeah, his presentation that he did for us was exceptional, and it wore us and won us over.
He definitely has got the early signs of somebody that could go on to Dragon's Den or Shark Tank to get investment because, you know, with that presentation,
it worked.
It worked. It pulled on the heartstrings. It was funny. It was moving. And
informative, thought out.
I've never seen him work so hard for something.
There was a financial plan with it, talking about MVP plans. He had a step. He knew what he wanted. He knew how to get there.
Yeah. A clear advert for everything that we talk about.
The only problem is, so he did say on there, I promise I will pick up all the mess and I will get up in the night.
And do you believe that? You really believe that?
I did. And he did do the first one and the first night. But then I've been doing
now Leanne has become the dog lady.
And he's very cute, but I am shattered. It's been like 15 years since I ran after a toddler or a baby. So I feel like I've just gone back in time. I need some sleep.
Well, that links well to the subject.
It does indeed. So today's question is, before I fall asleep, how can I become a person with a greater capacity?
Get a dog.
I'll tell you what, that'll squeeze everything you've got out of you. Energy, finance, time. Yeah, all of it. So how can we become people with a greater capacity? Because actually, I think everybody wants to grow, and so we're going to kind of drill down into exactly what that means, because it's got to be in every area of our lives. But really, what does it mean to be a person of high or great capacity, do you think?
Well, the common complaint from people is I don't have enough time. And it's the one thing that is the level playing field for everybody on earth, wherever they live.
True.
And, you know, wherever they're from and whatever their background is, we all have the same amount of time in a day. And so we have a finite amount of time, but what we put into that time, I think, really determines our capacity.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes and I've done it, we can limit ourselves because we've just decided, this is the way it is. I can't do any more. And actually, we don't go under the bonnet and ask the question, well, what am I putting into those hours?
True.
And actually, is that what I want to be doing? And is that going to take me to where I want to go? And so really, we're always dealing in the immediate. We're always dealing with the now moment. Most of us can operate from a reactive place. Yeah. And really, when we talk about becoming that MVP, it's about becoming proactive. It's about saying, okay, life might be busy right now. I may feel like I'm on the edge. I may feel like I haven't got more to give. But I can stop. I can reflect, which is the first step of the MVP plan. And then I can start to go under the skin, as it were, of what it is that I really believe about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And so for me, kind of increasing our capacity is such a huge area that we should focus on, because some of us are living within almost a prison of we can't go any further, and we don't have to be in that prison.
Absolutely. Because I am a firm believer that we all have opportunity to grow, to expand. I don't mean just physically. I mean in terms of, taking on more. There's that term about having broad shoulders. You can kind of absorb more. But it's not about taking on more stress, and it's not about taking on more worry or the weight of things. It's actually more about growing as a person and how to deal with things that might come into your life, how to, cope with the immediate issues. But then it's bigger than that. Even after that, it's about how to enlarge who you are as a person, to invite more people into your life, more opportunity into your life. But that isn't something that just happens incidentally. That isn't just something, we grow, don't we? So you're a baby, obviously. You grow up into a toddler, a child, teenager, adult. You grow. You don't have to try very hard at that. That happens naturally. But actually, we're talking about growth, not just in physical terms, in terms of who we are as people, that actually takes intentionality, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. It does take intentionality. And, sometimes our capacity is increased because of what we have to do. So, if you have a baby, like you mentioned, which is a great kind of example personally, if you have a baby, you have no option but to increase your capacity. Like, that is going to test you. It is going to challenge you, and over time, you will increase your capacity. You will find ways to do things that previously you thought you could not do. Yeah,
because people say things like, "Oh, it'll settle down. It will get easier. You'll settle into it." I mean, they've been saying that to me about the puppy too. Things like, "Don't worry, you'll get used to it." But it isn't just getting used to it. You actually grow.
You do
adapt and grow.
You do, and I think the key to that is that it's time and test. Time and test. So capacity is increased over time and based upon the testing that I embrace. And as I've said, some of that happens to us and comes at us. So even, in your job, there may be a challenge that's given to you. So that challenge comes to you. So there's things that kind of happen externally. But then really the difference between, just being kind of, I guess, part of a group of people who like to grow and an MVP is that actually, I don't just wait for growth challenges to come. I look for them.
Okay.
And so I'm actively looking for how I can increase my capacity. And again, it's the same principle. What test do I need to embrace over time that's going to help me to increase my capacity? Just like going to a gym, to increase your strength capacity, you have to do repetitions of a dumbbell or, a weight that is going to provide resistance, and resistance over time is going to increase strength. So again, that's a principle, and obviously, our capacity that we need is going to be based on something we've talked about in recent episodes, the vision that I have for my life.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking for those instances, looking for those opportunities to grow, doesn't always look like fun though, does it? Because I don't know about you, but I don't go looking deliberately for things to stretch and kind of make me feel uncomfortable. I think all of us in our human nature wouldn't want to chase after things that are going to cause stretching and pain and kind of a difficult situation. But yet, like you said, if we're going to really succeed, if we're going to be MVPs, we need to go looking for those opportunities. But I think the problem comes is when we are at capacity. And let's be honest, we've all been at that point.
Yeah.
And we kind of feel like we can't take on any more, or, whether that's mentally, emotionally, whatever, you can't take on any more. But recognizing that actually there is always more, because we are actually, I believe, created and designed to stretch and to grow with each season, with each situation. But the problem is when you're in it, you feel like the world's going to end.
Yeah, you do. And again, that's because we get so locked into the emotion of the moment. And I think, again, what vision does is it takes us out of that present moment and puts us in the future. Yeah. It's a picture of a preferred future. And a great example of this, the Bible carries a clear picture of the power of vision, but also the importance of embracing challenge to increase our capacity. In the Old Testament, for those who don't know, there's a journey of Israel, who are God's people. And they start quite literally off as one man, Abraham, and he ends up having children, who obviously then there's multiplication over years. But they become a nation, and the promise is that they're going to become a nation that's going to stand out. I guess you would call it like an MVP nation. But that's a great promise, but it meant that they had to go on a journey of challenges. And there's this verse in Exodus, which, of course, anybody who's watched The Prince of Egypt, and Moses plays a key part in the journey of Israel. There's this verse which is really challenging, but also it's full of hope. And it's where God says, little by little, I'm going to drive out your enemies. In other words, the people that are going to stand in your way, who are going to stop you getting into your own land to become your own nation, I'm going to drive them out before you, little by little, until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. Good. In other words, you'll get there. You'll get to possess the dream. You'll get to possess the land. But it's going to be little by little. And the reason for that is because if God just fast forward the story and ignored the challenges, then they would be in a land, but they wouldn't have the capacity to sustain living there. There was a journey of development. There was a process that they had to go on. And that time and test over a period of time, it can be painful, because you're thinking to yourself, will I ever get there? Yep. Will we ever arrive at the dream? Will we ever arrive in the promise? And that's why you have to keep that picture really, really clear, because it's amazing when you get it so clear, it's almost like you're there now. Yeah. And so it helps offset that emotion of maybe, losing hope, or the pain of feeling like you're at your max. But then what it also does is it challenges you in that moment to say, okay, well, what can I stop doing right now, so that I can create a little bit of capacity to start doing something that's connected with my future? Because this is the thing, what we tend to do, and I've been so guilty of this in the past, we just keep adding to our lives. And that's where it goes wrong. And
we add thinking that is what's going to make us feel bigger and look bigger and be better and whatever. But adding to your life just adds more stress. And takes away more energy or time or resource or finance. So actually, you're right, it isn't just adding stuff to your life so that you have to cope with it. It's not just like, go on then, stick another load on.
Nope.
But you're going to have to be prioritizing what things are taking up your time, your resource, your energy, your finance, your thoughts, all of those things.
Yep.
What is absorbing them? What do I need to get rid of, cut down, in order to allow space to grow? I think we talked about this a few years ago in a work context, about you should never be at 100% anyway in terms of everything, because then you can't take on any more. There should always be like a small reserve ready for that growth to move forward, and then you carry on expanding. And I think that is right. If we're always at our max, we don't have time or space to really evaluate. And evaluation is so important. I've said this before on many occasions, but at school, I was terrible at evaluation. You know, in science lessons, you would have the hypothesis, the inference of what you thought was going to happen out of the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Experiment. That was it. See, it's been a long time since I've been at school. And you'd have the experiment and then you'd have to write down. And then you'd do the thing, the practical, which is great fun. You know, you were either dissecting something or
burning the lab down.
Setting something on fire. I loved those days when you turned up and the lab was shut because someone had burned with the Bunsen burners, remember them? And then at the very end came the evaluation. You had to write up what worked, what didn't, what can you do better next time. Guess who never did their evaluation?
That'll be you.
Yeah, and it used to come up all the time. The teachers would say, you do really well, the practical's really good, your hypothesis and your inferences are really good. Where is your evaluation? Because I hate looking back and going, what could I have done better? What could I do better next time? How can I grow? How can I learn? I hate it.
Why?
Because it's painful.
In what way?
Oh, are we having a therapy session now then? This is Gareth's got his coaching hat on.
That's what this is about. This is diving deeper.
Hi everybody and welcome to the Winning Life TV. Thank you for tuning in and hopefully you've been listening to all the episodes so far. But we don't want to just talk at you, we want to have a conversation with you. So we want to share something really exciting that is coming up and we're inviting you to it. Now Gareth, tell us what is happening on February the 20th.
On February the 20th, Leanne, we're going to have an online environment where we talk about the MVP plan and the MVP journey that we are encouraging people to get on board with. Many people have downloaded the MVP plan and may look at it and think, okay, this is a really useful tool, but how do I really take it and maximize it and help me to break out of that repeating pattern that's stopping me making progress in my personal or professional life?
That's good. So if someone's listening to this and thinking, okay, great, is this for me? Who is it for?
This is for anybody who is hungry to grow, humble to learn, and wants to become the MVP in their environment, in the space where they operate day in, day out. In other words, that person who stands out so that they can start to shape and influence that arena to produce positive outcomes, to produce great results. And so we want you, if you believe in your heart that you are an MVP, you have an aspiration to achieve great things, then we want you to be in this environment.
So how is it going to work? People might be thinking, is it in person? Is it online? What's the setup?
So we're going to be on Zoom and we are going to have that environment where we can interact, where we can break down into groups. And so we're going to introduce you into that environment and explain how it's going to be a regular environment going forward that people can be part of, because we really believe that there is more in you than you think. But we all need somebody to help draw that out of us. And that's what the environment is for.
Well, I'm really excited to be there. I can't wait to start it. So come and join us on Monday, 20th February. All the details of how you can sign up for this will be at thewinninglife.tv. Make sure you're there. We'll be there. We're excited to start this community. So see you soon. Do you know why? Honestly, because I used to feel like it was a waste of time. I just wanted to move on to the next thing. So I'd think, I don't know, what's the point in evaluating? It didn't work. Forget it. Move on. But then I'd go to the next thing and the same thing would happen. So I did all these great experiments but never worked out why they didn't work or why they did work. So then you're not growing because you're just doing things but not growing your capacity or learning. I'm just doing stuff and going, well, that worked. That didn't work. But I think if I had gone back, I would have perhaps done a little bit better. I mean, I got a C at GCSE, but it's because and I think I carry that on into my normal life. I find evaluation very painful. I know it's necessary and I do it now because I'm grown up enough to recognise that. But
I think you're right, and you picked up on two things that are the challenge with evaluation. It's either painful because it reflects back on me, what I should have done differently, and if we place a great deal of importance on our performance, in other words, how we've done things, on our self-worth, then we don't want to go looking at anything that could possibly touch on that sore spot of you should have done better. because again, that means I'm not worth as much as I thought I was. Or, as you've said, we think it's a waste of time, and we're in such a hurry to move on to the next thing that we'll figure it out as we go along. And actually, that hurrying is getting us nowhere fast. And so I think we have to be honest with ourselves and those listening right now. Which of those two? And I think probably most people have elements of both, but I know I certainly have and do it kind of in my default. Which one stands out to you most? Which one is it? Is it the kind of the pain of evaluation that you avoid, or is it the belief that this is a waste of time? I haven't got time for this, which again is ironic. I don't have time to evaluate how I use my time in order to create more time. Think about that. It's ludicrous. It's amazing the amount of things that we actually, if we were to write out some of our thought processes and analyze them, we'd be like, that's nonsense.
What are you doing?
Like, no wonder I'm stuck in a loop of feeling stuck. And again, that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Growing up in school, on my school report, I used to have the comment, Gareth has his finger in too many pies. and it was because I was never reluctant to get involved in stuff. I just wanted to keep adding things because I got a buzz, I got a high off, of being involved and I think if you have people who are kind of multi-talented people who have kind of single talents, and you're not better because you've just got different challenges. And I could kind of turn my hand to most things, but it's the whole kind of being what's the saying?
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Absolutely.
That's not true, but yes.
No, but that again, if you just keep adding stuff, then you will just become kind of an all-rounder, but not excel.
Yes.
And to be an MVP, that is about choosing to specialize, choosing to focus on something that can really be your highest point of contribution and impact. To discover, what is it that was in God's intention when he created me? I'm not just part of a batch load of people. There's a specific responsibility, a specific assignment that I have been entrusted with, and the gifts and skills I've been entrusted with. Because the reality is, you're not, you can't take any credit for the skills that you've got. I can't take any credit for any natural skills that I've got. So I've been entrusted with them. I've got to work out why those gifts, why those skills, and over time, test, okay, which of these skills are going to bring the maximum contribution to really impact this world for good. Because I think the worst thing is to get to the end of your life and think, well, I filled my time with a whole heap of stuff, but actually, what legacy am I leaving? And again, that's something we've talked about before.
Yeah. So something you just said a moment ago, then, would you agree with perhaps growing your capacity or enlarging your capacity, becoming a person of greater capacity is actually about focus? So we could split ourselves up into 100 pieces and give 1% to all of those things. Like you said on your school report, fingering too many pies, but it looks like we're a person of high capacity. We've got all this stuff, but actually we're only giving 1% to all of the 100 things. So actually growing our capacity is about focus. It's not about saying those things, some of those things we have to do, but it's about where is really my focus? Where is my intention going? Because that is what will help us be a person of greater capacity.
100%. Again, we've said before, vision makes making decisions easier. So, if right now I'm making far too many choices to do too many things, for me, that's a sign that your vision is not clear. Because you're going in probably 100 different directions. If I've not got something that is burning in me regarding my future, that almost empowers me to say no to stuff, then it's not clear enough. So our vision puts restraints in our today. and put some boundaries. And one of the things I talk about in the Winning Conversation is firewall focus. So, we can say, right, and we've done this on our journey when we were moving to London. We were certainly not in a position financially when we first had the thought or the idea to do it, to make it happen. So we knew, okay, if that's part of a vision of the future, then we need to put some boundaries in place regarding our choices today that's going to protect that resource, whether that's money, energy, time. What are the things that we need to protect that's going to turn that wish into a reality, that dream into what actually takes place. And firewall focus is based on the principle that every building has firewalls. In other words, if you're in a building and it's set on fire, then there are walls that give you enough time to get out. And really, that's what we need in our day-to-day lives. Boundaries that allow us to focus on the right things so that we can actually turn our dream into a reality. And something that you mentioned earlier, which I 100% believe to be true, if we get those firewalls correct, if we get those boundaries correct, we will actually have margin.
Yes.
And we need margin. Let me say right now, you need margin. So, and why do I need margin? Because I heard somebody once say that, the miraculous happens in the margins.
Yeah.
In other words, in the areas that you don't manipulate, in the areas that you don't manufacture, that's where the miracles take place. In other words, that's where you meet that person who becomes a key part of your future.
Yeah.
That's where that opportunity arises, when you're having that coffee in that place because you had the time to have it, and then that conversation led to an idea or to something taking place, a project or whatever it is. So again, the miracle of how the future is going to unfold is going to happen in the margins. But if I have no margin, and again, financially for us, that was, okay, how do we create margin in our finances? And remember, we needed to go to a house that was bigger than what we were living in at the time, but we knew the house that eventually we would need in London, we'd have to prepare for. So we thought, okay, well, it's going to have to be a rental.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be a rental because if we go buy the next house, we're going to go to the edge of our capacity, and basically we hamstring ourselves in terms of the future. So again, that's how that future really puts a boundary, puts a focus, like you've said, on the key areas of our lives. And when we do the MVP journey with people, we really look at all the areas, your relationships, your finances, your health, your development, all those key areas. You need to ask yourself, have I got in place the boundaries that are going to give birth to the future that I desire?
And that really is describing, I would say, faith in action. So it's what you're believing for, like you talked about. It's your dream, it's the vision. But everyone can have a dream or a vision or, kind of an idea of what they want. But just sitting there and hoping for it isn't gonna work. I mean, there is a point of that's where your faith comes in. And as a Christian, as a believer of Jesus, that we say, actually, yes, my faith is in him, that he's given me these dreams, these talents, etc. I believe him, and actually I know that I have a vision. But then there's our responsibility. That's God's responsibility, is to give us the kind of things that we need and to look after us and like you said, entrust us with stuff. But our responsibility is to go and put that faith into action. So rather than sitting there going, oh, I really hope this works out, but then being this person of really small capacity, is actually saying, I'm going to go and do some things in faith. Faith is being sure of what you hope for, certain of what you cannot see, and say, do you know what? I'm just going to do some things, push the boundaries a little bit, but have the boundaries at the same time to say, I'm believing that something is going to happen. That might be, just like we've talked about in other episodes, a seed of something very small. But that seed will turn into something bigger, which will push our capacity, which will enlarge the place where we are and help us become bigger, greater people, not necessarily in people's eyes, not that we become famous or amazing, but actually that people go, do you know what? that person, you've got such a big capacity, you've got big faith, you've got big dreams, and you don't get fazed by stuff because we've prioritized, we've focused, and we're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's, again, coming back to the story in the Old Testament, they were given a promise of the land.
Yeah.
But they were also given principles, commands. And we love the promise, but we don't embrace the principles.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we've got to embrace both. We've got to realize there are laws in play. There are principles. And if we want to unlock the promise, then we've got to become in line to those principles. And again, whether that's a principle that's just a principle that I know to be true, or whether that I have a faith in God and realize, actually, no, this dream is only going to come about through my relationship with him and through really recognizing that I've got to surrender myself to these principles. In that moment when I feel like adding more, I've got to hold myself accountable. And again, that's what we talk about in the MVP journey. Accountability and evaluation are the two missing keys in most people's plans to making progress. And so that alignment to the principle to unlock the promise is absolutely fundamental.
So maybe a kind of practical point for us to take away today is a bit of evaluation. I think something that I don't like to do, but we're going to do.
Let's do it.
Actually, that's not true. I've learned to enjoy it. I have learned to love it. And that's another whole subject, because now I enjoy looking back at stuff and going, where did that not work? So maybe that is a little bit of an action plan for us all from today's broadcast. Maybe let's go and do some evaluation. What am I saying no to because I haven't created enough room? Or what should I be saying no to create more capacity in my life? Do you know, these things don't take very long. These are not hours of sitting there going, what am I doing? Sometimes you can incorporate it into just, 10 minutes of your break time, the end of the day, whenever, or if you want to, if you are a Christian and you have that time with God, incorporate into that. That's probably even better idea. Say, God, just show me. Who do you want me to become? What's my creative design capacity wise? What are the dreams you've given me, and how are you going to help me to get there? What do I need to get rid of, or what do I need to say yes to? I think they're kind of quite good evaluation questions for us to have.
100%. And remember, there is more in you than you think. And unlocking it comes through focus and realizing that I've got to take control of those boundaries. So I really hope today's episode has helped you, encouraged you. Go away, do that evaluation question. And until next time, goodbye.
We hope that you enjoyed that episode. And if you enjoyed it, please go and subscribe over on all of our channels on YouTube, Instagram and Facebook, and not forgetting your favourite podcast platform. And if you head over to thewinninglife.tv, you'll be able to find all the resources available to you. Gareth has written several books which will help you on your discovery to building stronger and better lives. Come and join us for the next episode.